I've told people that I'm Native American, they're like, what is that? What does that mean? It means I'm like, I'm indigenous, I'm from here. Like, I'm here.
I am offended by Disney's Pocahontas. 3, 2, 1.
The movie came out when I was a child, and it was the first like native anything that I seen, right? I see the good in it, you know, I could see natives on the screen, but then you have songs like Savages, Savages, you know, Barely Even Human. There's like bullshit like that that's in there. I liked it when I was a child, but as an adult, nah.
Yeah, I mean, like some of those songs are bangers, right? Like Colors of the Wind, like you can listen to that all day.
Savages.
I mean, maybe not that one. That one's definitely offensive. I would jump over there for that. It's tough because like it gave us a place to like have something to speak against or to say anything about. So like, do I need to be mad about it that it actually gave us like some sort of on-screen, even though it's a cartoon? I don't know.
I think it's great that we can talk about it now, but the fact that it exists, I think it's a dangerous depiction, especially of Native women. And a lot of our youth have had to experience difficult things, racist things, because of that imagery.
It further engraves those stereotypes that somehow Native women all dressed like that sexy, like way back then. And like my opinion of Pocahontas has evolved over time. I would say 6-year-old me would say strongly disagree, because I saw a Native woman and it was a happy romanticized, you know, story of Pocahontas. But as I've grown up, I've done more research on her story and what's happened to her.
My community benefits from casinos. 3, 2, 1.
Mine definitely does not. There's no good advertising because they don't have the funding or enough funding to like advertise it and market it really well. So every time I'm there to get my favorite chicken fingers and mashed potatoes, their own customer base is their own people. And so they're not really bringing in revenue from tourism or anything like that, or just people driving down I-90.
Yeah, I mean, like the Chickasaw Nation, like we're able to provide all sorts of services for our community because of profits from our casinos. Like just basic health care, like we have that, like school services, all these things, and it's very beneficial to my community.
My tribe is new to gaming, but as far as I know, Navajo Nation scholarships could increase because of all of the gaming and that revenue, but I haven't seen it. Like the Navajo Nation scholarships are not very much at all.
I think that that's a huge stereotype that a lot of people are always like, oh, well, you guys have casinos. Okay, yeah, my tribe has more than one casino, but you don't see me rolling in money and getting monthly cash payments. Like it's just a stereotype.
There's also these, you know, there's negative aspects of it, like, you know, people coming on the res and thinking that it's, you know, their place to party and, you know, and do whatever they want. One of my friends on Facebook posted something about our casinos and how they're kind of contributing to the missing, murdered Indigenous women crisis, how that's a lot of women come up missing at these locations.
And they're hot spots for human trafficking.
They are.
Just to put it in perspective for people that don't know what this issue is, in 2016, 5,712 women were reported missing. And that's only 2016. You know, they deemed this epidemic a genocide, and that there are just thousands and thousands of women going missing and murdered. And so this is something that, you know, we need to find solutions for.
The general public is unaware of the trauma in our communities. 3, 2, 1.
Because they don't even know our history, don't understand our trauma. And you know, my younger brother committed suicide when he was 17. My little brother was one of 8 Navajo boys that committed suicide that summer in my area. And you know, when I talk about that, they're like, oh my God, like what can we do?
They don't even know that we exist at times. We're so invisible, you know, so like we have to first show people that we're still fucking here, and then we have to educate them on all the fucking trauma that we've been through, all the, and that's the whole reason that we have like the highest statistics for like suicide, for new cases of HIV and AIDS, for, diabetes, all these different, things, because of all these traumas that we've had to go through as people.
I don't know if anybody else has gotten this when you're asked, like, what are you? What are you? I was like, oh, I'm Native American. I'm waiting for all those questions to happen. Oh, do you do dream catchers? Do you wear moccasins? All these fun things. But the one that really pisses me off is, so y'all have drinking problems, right? And I was like, oh, dude. Like, I mean, it kills because you don't know why we have drinking problems, or some have, unfortunately, have that to carry.
Well, the government made treaties with indigenous people, and every single one of them has been broken. That's why for a long time a lot of our communities have been like suffering because of what the government has put us through and relocated us to different parts of Turtle Island away from our original homelands where we were.
Personal experience, like when I tell someone I'm Chickasaw and then tell them I'm from Oklahoma, they're like, well, how'd your family get to Oklahoma? It's like, Trail of Tears, dog. That's like I understand why we don't talk about it, but it's not good that we don't. We got to find like a place to speak about it, but in a way that doesn't create like guilt for like just an individual, because like that person has not done anything to me. I'm not trying to make them feel guilty. I just think that you need to understand that there was this trauma and there are reasons why our communities are fractured because of this.
Blood quantum matters. 3, 2, 1.
During the 70s, during the American Indian movement, there was fighting between full-bloods, half, and that created this divide of, who's more of the superior Native, who's more of the full-blood. If you can prove that you are Native, whether you're 1/16th, but you can prove it, I'm totally for that. I feel like blood quantum creates a divide, and it's further, separating us from our culture and from who we are.
Another thing we have to look at too is for folks who are multiple tribes. We live in an urban environment. I know people who are like 5 or 6 tribes. They're not eligible for enrollment in any one. They're full-blood Native. They're from all these different tribes, but they can't enroll in one because they're not enough of that one particular tribe. They still have all these connections to the community. They have all these ties. They do all these, but they're not enrolled. They don't have that connection on paper.
We can't help that we're mixed blood because of our histories and what happened to us. Our ancestors were raped, they were taken from their tribes. So we have a lot of Native people coming back today who want to be part of the community, and we should be accepting of that, and blood quantum shouldn't matter. That's who they are.
Well, for myself, I'm full-blood Tohono O'odham, but I know that there are a lot of, there are people that can say that they are Native and they're not, and that can be very hurtful to people that need to get the same benefits. In college, I got a list of all the people that were Native in my college, and I went and I found everybody, and this one girl was like, oh yeah, I just said that so I could get in. Because the school didn't ask for any, they're just like, oh, if you're Native, check this box. So for me, I say that, yeah, I somewhat agree that it does matter.
I mean, I see the benefits too, because sometimes when you have to apply to something, like scholarships or certain things, they do want accurate records.
Yeah, but like how much is enough blood? Because like I think if we're going to say that blood quantums are important, then how much is enough to be a Native person? It's hard like when people want you to prove that you're Native all the time. I am very mixed with like so many different races, but like the one I grew up knowing about and the one that I identified with was Chickasaw, because that was the dominant one in my household, and that was like what we did. But in a lot of communities, like people who are more Native than I am or indigenous than I am will be like, well, you kind of can't speak to this because you don't know what it feels like. And it's like, yeah, I do, because I grew up with that exact same thing as you, but I just don't look exactly like you. The trauma is still there. How do you justify that I am less because of like my blood is less?
I have felt ashamed of my identity. 3, 2,
I was adopted, and so I feel like I'm somewhat agree, because growing up, I didn't know my identity. I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood, and I stood out because I'm dark skinned, dark hair, and people would be like, what are you? There was a disconnect. But as an adult, I don't feel that way at all. Like every day, I'm very proud, I'm very excited, and I'm happy to tell people that I'm Tono'atam.
I mean, I didn't feel ashamed until I was 9, growing up on the reservation in lower rural South Dakota and surrounded by my family and culture, and we were just so close, and that's what, our tribal communities bring to us. But then my dad got a job out in Maine, the most rural place you could go, and that's where I started experiencing racism and started seeing that I was different, and being called a prairie nigger, having brass knuckles shoved in my face because a hate crime was happening because I was walking with a white student who was walking me to my dad's office. For a long time, I really hated who I was. I was embarrassed to be brown. Now I fucking own it.
My experience is a little bit different. I grew up in North Jersey, New York, Canada, all around, and I still never ever felt like racially profiled. It wasn't until maybe high school when I moved back home. A lot of the Iroquois kids, the Mohawk kids, they lived there their whole life. I had moved around so much. I think that's the only time I felt a little ashamed, is because I didn't have any roots. But other than that, I still felt welcomed. I felt part of this group, part of that group.
For me, getting more in touch with my culture, learning about where I come from, that's what really saved my life. So I feel like I've never been ashamed. It just makes me more proud. Being a queer indigenous person as well, that's, brought me out of a really dark place, learning about what my role is in the community as a two-spirit person. I was a meth addict for a very long time as a child, from the time I was 14 years old to the time I was 19. Looking back to my upbringing and my culture and all that, the things that gave me a sense of identity, that's what brought me out of those dark places.
I believe the government owes us. 3, 2, 1.
Yes, they do owe our people tons of things. Can't even imagine like the list I've got in my head. But I think too, we owe ourselves some stuff too. Reclamation, decolonization. We need to love ourselves more.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't say strongly agree, because we're stepping up and we're more educated and stronger than ever. But I do think that we deserve better health care. We deserve better educational systems. We deserve better textbooks in our schools.
I'm not expecting anything as far as like being owed, but what I would like, it doesn't cost any money, is an apology. It's an acknowledgement. They've done that in other countries where they're like, oh, we're sorry, we came in and we massacred your indigenous population, and they apologize for it. And that much I think that we're owed, and I think that that would help bring a lot of healing amongst our people.
To speak, I can only speak for like myself as an individual. I can't speak for everybody or even a collective because I'm only one person. But like an apology doesn't like heal me anymore. It's cool, that would be good, but like it doesn't make me like do anything different than I'm doing now. I don't think that feeling owed gives us the same place of power that knowing that like no one owes me anything. I'm just gonna get it.
Well, me just keeping it real, maybe that comes from a little bit of this. Colorism is a real thing. It happens, and maybe you don't feel that because of, you have a different place in this society than somebody else with a darker skin tone.
Well, I'll address that. In high school, I stopped going outside because I would get too dark and I had long hair. And so I have felt that. So I know what you're saying, but like, even during that time, even when I would like go to Walmart and get followed around, even when I would get pulled over 4 times a week for driving while brown, I still was in the same mindset of like, I'm going to get it regardless of what's in front of me. So maybe that's just me, a personality thing, but as far as like skin color goes, like I felt it.
I think though, or I'm looking at it from the perspective, like they don't owe me shit, but if they can acknowledge and hold themselves accountable in what they have done and what previous presidents have done, previous governments, that creates a new path for change. Because when you admit to something and acknowledge that it's there, then that behavior changes. I think we need investment and accountability. And I'm not even coming at it from like a monetary standpoint, like, oh, give us millions of dollars and we'll call it even. We need people to care, and we need accountability.
High five. Yes.
Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around to the end. Erin, I know that this is an episode that was really near and dear to your heart. Can you just tell us why you wanted to do this episode?
So I'm not Native American, but I am Native Hawaiian and an indigenous person. And I do feel like indigenous people are not in the media at all, or they're shown in a very inaccurate way. And so I thought this was an opportunity to shed light on a community that's often neglected and where most people don't even know these communities exist anymore.
Well, hopefully you guys have found that Spectrum is a good kind of window into an entire community, entire group of thinking. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Let us know if there was anything that struck you in particular, or especially if you're part of one of these groups. We would love to hear your opinions. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, because that's where we're getting a lot of our prompts. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.